Hello and welcome back to Hollowponds Solo Sagas, where we are recording our something episode of Daggerheart played solo. Yes, we are playing through a campaign of Daggerheart. We are using our ranger, Fern, who is a faun. We are using the books produced by Hollowponds Solo Sagas, which you can find on Drive Thru, where we have the solo in Sablewood and the heart guide, the basic heart guide. I haven't had a chance to do much progress on the Deluxe because coming to Belgium has been chaos and hasn't eventuated the way I wanted it to, hence the echo that you'll be hearing and the weird lighting effects, and every now and then the green screen might not work properly because I'm having to hang it in front of a window, and amazingly sometimes it becomes sunny. But anyway, what we were going to do in today's session was we were going to build our big villain. So we're going to use the trifold Building Better Villains, which you can also get off of Drive Thru RPG, and we're going to attempt to build a villain using that process that I outlined, and also from the how to Building Better Villains, and we will then use that villain to drive the story for the rest of this campaign arc, because we've come up to this point. We are up to session 14. That is this session 14. So we will begin to drive using that villain to drive some of the process and some of the story and the narrative to be able to push Fern into some form of conclusion. Otherwise, there's a possibility that Fern is just going to meander and roll random missions, which is fine, but it doesn't really drive like an epic story arc. And it's nice if you can make yourself, if you want to, an epic story arc. So that's what we're going to choose to do. Now, I don't have any cards that I can use, which is what I suggest within the trifold. So we'll run through the process. Just to remind you, we questioned, we interrogated, and we had the bard. What was his name? Merrick? Was his name Merrick, the bard? Mendak. Oh yeah, there's a reason for that. Mendak, M-E-N-D-A-X, the wordsmith bard, assisted us in the questioning. Mendak, we just said, was at the bar, the tavern, I can't remember his name, in Hush, and had saw that we might need assistance, and so stepped in and started helping. Mendak is very actor in the way Mendak speaks, and we played Mendak that way last session. And so now we will we'll take a step out type session like we did when we generated the constructs, and we will just quickly go through the process of trying to make our villain, which I will then transfer to a villain card, and we will use the procedural loop for the villain in each of our major scenes moving forwards within this story of Daggerheart. So what we need to do is we need to start with our main character to think about who Evelyn's going to be. So our main character is of course Fern. So we want to write down like the top 3 goals, active goals of Fern, and then we're going to take those goals and we're going to push those as points of conviction, points of pressure that our villain is going to oppose. So we're basically creating our villain to oppose our character. Now, if you're running this as a group, as a DM, you would do the same thing. You would create your villain to oppose your party. So you'd pick some of the main factors that your party shares in their goals, and those would be the things. So we need to, first off, we need to list off what Fern's goals are. So what are Fern's goals? So one of Fern's major goals as a ranger who lives in the Sablewood and seems to love and protect the Sablewood is to protect the Sablewood. One of Fern's other goals is to protect Wolf. And what did we say? Where's Fern's character card? Because if we can get Fern's compelling character card, wherever I put that, what else do we have from Fern? So Fern has got protect the Sablewood because it's their home. That is their major drive. Lost family, promise to care for Wolf. Fern's friends were killed. Friend was killed by the Saber Sinecure, so maybe to bring the Sinecure down. So maybe this villain will support the Sinecure. Fern will commit crimes. Fern could have gone to university but didn't. So 2 relationships with Wolf, and there's a herbalist. So we've got a Sablewood herbalist, which is the stepmother, which is on the compelling character card. So I am going to say also because we got Fern's friend was killed by the sinkhole, we will say bring down the sinkhole. Now this is something that we've only just made up and isn't necessarily something that we'll push through with, but it does work well with our villain, who could then be supporting the sinkhole. So we have 3 things that are goals that Fern has that we want our villain to oppose. We want to know certain things about our villain, so we want to know our villain's drive. We want to think about the methods that our villain will use. We want to think about what resources our villain might have, what our villain's weakness might be, which we might not do yet, so that will uncover as we discover some more. And then we have our villain's drama clocks. Now the drama clocks are going to be the plan, heat, which is how much pressure the villain is putting on to Fern, and our specific archetype clock. Now the archetype clock is going to depend upon the archetype we choose. Now we do have some archetypes to choose from, and I'll go through those now, and then we need to decide what the archetype is, because really that will then colour and bias and balance out our drive, method, resources and weakness. Although resources I think I have a grasp on, because we know we have constructs to be a resource, and we have magic, we have mages because we had the spell sword, which is a resource of our villain. We don't know what other resources the villain may have at this point, because we've organically grown this villain rather than purposely grown this villain. I also, because I made it up on the spot, said the villain can scry, so the villain has some form of magical abilities, and we thought the villain might be of a demonic origin or linked to the original battle with the Forgotten Gods. So those are things that might happen with this villain. So what type of archetypes we have? We have a mastermind. Now the mastermind type archetype, when it comes to solo play, we should slowly uncover what the plan is, like a babushka doll, as opening up as you go deeper down. A tyrant would be not quite, I don't think the tyrant will work for this villain, because a tyrant is more in your face, definitely is controlling things in a tyrannical type manner. So we could have it, but I mean, we should have it as a sort of sideline character who's building up their power. And I don't know if tyrant would work for this one. Bully could work as a sub factor, that they get pleasure from causing pain by other people, that they're almost sadomasochistic, or would it be sadomasochistic? No, sadomasochistic, because not masochistic. A sadist, almost a sadist. Mirror image means that it would be another ranger like Fern, so not that. Corrupt idealist, no, this is definitely not a corrupt idealist. Now, we do have unstoppable force or evil personified. Evil personified may be too far, so unstoppable force might be good. Now, unstoppable force evokes the senses of either it is godlike or it has strong powers. Now, we could say we've got unstoppable force because it is demonic and it is a lesser god, and it lost its power due to the battle against the Forgotten Gods. And as our big bad gets stronger as the story progresses, we could have its unstoppable force, its demonic power builds as it grows. So we might have, it is a mastermind with an unstoppable force type undertone. So then we've got, what is the overall goal which underlies everything they do, which is their backstory. Now I'm thinking that it's destroying the Sablewood. Now the Sablewood at the moment is protected by the spires, and so if we have got the spires, we've already had that the constructs have gone and attacked spires, which is just so happens to happen with rolls. None of it was on purpose. Maybe what we have is we have an increasing battle that's occurring, which one of the first goals of the so this would be down as the plan clock. This clock is divided into 3 sections. You may vary the number of boxes in each section depending on the heat of the story. BVB has an escalating event after each section is complete. These are steps towards their greater goal, which is to dominate the Sablewood again, say. They just made that bit up. Let's say that they used to, millennia ago, before the battle, this was an evil forest, and they could run rampant around the evil forest. And so their first part of their plan is to destroy a number of the spires. So we could say a number of the spires. We need to destroy a number of the spires. Now, how many of the spires need to be destroyed? We don't know how many spires there are. Nothing within the Sablewood adventure pack. It mentions the spires. It mentions they protect the Sablewood. Their energy is important, but we don't know how many there are or how many need to be destroyed to weaken Sablewood. So, I mean, we could roll a number, but instead let's have a pool. Why don't we have a pool? We will use a drama dice pool, and every time a spire is attacked, we roll the pool, and once the pool is emptied, we would then say it's the Sablewood is weakened. Now, if you don't know how drama dice work for a pool, I also have a trifold which is about drama clocks. It was one of the first trifolds I produced. In essence, a D6, I also mentioned this extensively in single player mode. I wrote single player mode for Cyberpunk Red. I am the Peter Norton. That is, if you go, it's not at the present moment, it's #1 on Drive Thru RPG. If you go check out Drive Thru RPG, if you don't know what Drive Thru RPG is, you really need to discover it. It's the major place to get PDF documents on role-playing games. Most games you can get there, loads of additional information, loads of different stuff, and more importantly, my stuff's on sale there. There's a trifold there on drama clocks. Goes through all the different types of drama clocks there are, how you can use them, how you can do them, but in essence, the drama clock we are going to use is a dice pool drama clock. We roll the dice pool. If we rolled a 1, we take it out. If we don't roll a 1, that's it. It doesn't go down. What this means is we don't know when the clock is going to it's not like the clocks as described within the SRD for Daggerheart, which is just a slow incremental. You basically know when it's going to fire because it will fire in 5 actions. 4, 3, 2, 1, it's going to fire. We don't know. That roll, I could have rolled all 1s because the probability is there and the clock fires instantly. Or I could roll nothing like I did just then. So let's do another roll. So we take these 3 dice out because they rolled 1. Our pool is now reduced by almost half by 1 roll. We don't know when it will fire. Thus, the tension is even higher than a standard clock as described in the Daggerheart book. A dice pool drama clock. This is what we're going to use. We will put, how many dice have I got here? 8 dice. We will have an 8 dice pool drama clock, which is the drive. So every time we do an attack on a spire and it succeeds or even partially succeeds, it's weakening the defensive force of the Sablewood. That's the drive. Now, what method do they have to reach their goal? They cannot, which is why we've got Mastermind and Unstoppable Force. Actually, I don't even know if Unstoppable Force, I'm going to take Unstoppable Force off. I think just Mastermind, because our big bad is in the background using power and temptation to manipulate mainly people with magical powers, because the big bad can grant magical powers, making it all up on the fly. And so the method is background manipulation, like a general, controlling the pieces on the battlefield and moving them around. What resources do we have? We have constructs, so we can produce, at this point, we could say a limited pool of constructs. So we won't create any major solos, we'll reduce the number of solos we have and only have reasonably tier 1 going into tier 2 constructs at this point. Whereas this escalates, the ability for the resources to be generated will increase, but at the moment we have tier 1 and 2 constructs and some spell swords. Now we will create some spell swords adversaries that will be specifically tuned for this big bad. We don't even know who this big bad is. Weakness, we don't know at this point. So what we have now is we have our villain. We know that there's a dice pool, which is their drive. When that 8 dice pool drops, we can then say that their tier 1 event triggers and the Sablewood is weakened and things are going to start getting dark in the Sablewood. And our goal at that point is to try and get more information about the big bad so as we can take the big bad down. We have their method is going to be controlling constructs and moving them around. So there will be, we might even have a large battle, try and do a big battle at some point, maybe at the end of the first. So I doubt this will go the whole of this first series. Normally a series here, I don't know if you've watched many before, lasts around 20 episodes for a big story like this and 10 episodes for a smaller story or some of the smaller games. This feels like a big arc story to me, and so this will go to probably another 6 episodes after this one, and then we will close down series 1 and go into series 2 for the big bad. So we want some big thing for the end of series 1 to make series 1 a big, because I like doing things as though it's a TV series, and so that would be what you'd want, because you'd want your series to end with some sort of cliffhanger, some big event, so as you know, the channel will give you some money to do series 2. And that is you watching, and also me enjoying it. So that's our plan. So we're going to have our plan clock is the dice pool. That is what we're going to use as our plan clock, is the dice pool, and we are going to do that to every time we do an attack on a spire, we roll pool. Now this is every time we attack on a spire. So when we have a scene that involves an attack on a spire, we will use the plan, because part of our game loop is going to be, we'll frame the scene that involves Fern. We will then advance one of the clocks. It will either be the plan clock, the heat clock, or the move clock. We then advance it depending on the story or depending on a random roll. If it's an attack on a spire, we will advance the plan clock by doing the dice roll. Heat clock. So the heat, this measures how much attention is being spent on our hero. Every time the heat clock completes, reset it and increase the heat. The higher the heat, the more the big bad will focus on the hero. So our heat clock, we will have so we want, the big bad is already a bit annoyed by Fern. So the big bad already knows that Fern is going. So we are going to make our heat clock every time that Fern, there's three, so this is a standard Daggerheart progress clock. So we could say every time Fern interacts with something, so every scene that would involve something with Fern opposing what our big bad is doing, we will then increase this, let's make it a 4. We'll increase this 4 tick clock, and every time, so our heat at the moment is 0. Our big bad is aware of Fern, but isn't really worried about Fern, is a bit frustrated. But we're going to mark on 2 ticks, because Fern stopped those constructs from defeating that other spire, not the mechanical one, because that's the one Bead Nova's in, but the other spire. Fern defeated those constructs that were on the way there, and Fern just defeated the constructs that attempted to attack Hush. Both of those activities would have annoyed the big bad no end. So we can make that clock has already gone to tier 2. I'll show you what I've written. So my scrappy handwriting. So we've already moved that tier on here. The rest of it I'll show you next session. I'll try and get some card, because I'm still in Belgium for now. I'll try and get some card and write this out neatly and then show you next session. And if I forget, I do apologise. So our archetype clock is going to be a mastermind clock, which is called a web clock. So the web of intrigue that our mastermind is attempting to manipulate to bring down the Sablewood. As this clock progresses, more of the mastermind's plans unfold. Their moves should feel like layered traps or delayed consequences. Play them out as ripples from past scenes, sudden reveals, or clever misdirections. Show their hand through manipulating allies, diverting missions, or plans that anticipate the hero's choices. The goal is to make each move feel earned and inevitable. Option: when the mastermind's plan clock fires, instead of deciding the escalation event, you can write several outcomes down and randomly select one. We might do that for the mastermind. So the type of things that might happen, then the moves that the mastermind might make is framing an ally, move the goalpost, reveal a decoy, hide a proxy, burn a resource, leave a tempting clue. So that is the move clock. and then if one of the clocks fires for every scene, then we reframe the scene to maybe do an off-scene event, or we'll reframe what happens to Fern in our intended scene, and then we'll game loop. So it's a bit like Mythic, where you can roll and then it's an unexpected scene. This is creating that sort of mechanic, but around our villain, to drive our story forward with an overarching villain instead of anything else. Now, as our heat and our web clock progress, we will unveil who our big bad is and their weakness and what they look like. So we don't know what they look like. We don't know. So Fern isn't even really aware that there is a big bad at this point. Fern is just aware that something is manipulating, and Kevin Turvey is the person. So we know all this information because Kevin is saying that Kevin was sent here by someone who has offered them power in exchange for leading these constructs to attack Hush. This is what Kevin Turvey was the spell sword. This is what Kevin Turvey gives us to allow us to know. Fern knows for the first time that there is something going on. Now, Fern wanted to know what was going on. Now Fern knows something is going on. So our web clock. Now, what do I advise the web clocks would be? Each time you start a new scene, no matter where the spotlight is, advance one of the clocks randomly, roll a d3 to decide which. If the clock triggers, write an action into your plan. Okay, so we're going to have our web clock as a 3-tier clock. So that would mean, yeah, if we do 3 tiers, then every time we advance it, on the 3rd tick, we will then do a move, a big bad move. So that means that Fern can still move around and do Fern's adventures and do the stuff and jobs that we've got Fern's already queued up to do. And the big bad isn't just banging in every single session and every single scene, but some of the scenes that's going to trigger. Some of the scenes the drama pool will trigger, and some of the scenes the heat pool will trigger, and the heat will increase. Now at the moment, it's very like the heat clock only needs to trigger 2 times, and then the big bad is getting annoyed with Fern and will do something to affect Fern, and then we'll increase the clock, clear it, and then make it slightly bigger or smaller. So the web clock, I will want to set the web clock as 3. Again, it's a standard Daggerheart clock, which means that we just tick it forwards. Every time we do a roll of a random d3, so random d3, if we roll a 1, we're going to do a planned move, or we might just do it anyway depending on what the scene is and if we think the scene leans towards one of these 3 rather than the other. A 2, the heat clock will trigger, and when we hit 4, we will move the heat from being 0 to 1, which means that the big bad is going to start paying a bit more attention to Fern, and we will frame that scene as specifically the big bad is going to basically send some warning to Fern to back away and leave this alone. And when the web clock progresses, we will do one of the big bad's mastermind moves, or we might just write down 2 or 3 ideas and then randomly roll, so as we don't actually know what the mastermind's going to do either. And that is how, as a solo player, or you can do this as DM, because it basically, in a low prep game, which really, as a DM, I think the whole Western Marches improv way of DMing frees you up from doing a lot of prep for stuff that you may not actually need. When I was DMing, when I first started DMing, I did so much prep, and I enjoyed doing it, but I hardly ever used it, and I just used to make stuff up anyway. And then I started to learn, just work with your players as a team to produce a story. I'm going to do some DMing. I'm going to try doing some professional DMing. Daggerheart will be one of the things I'm going to offer as a service to DM Daggerheart. If you would fancy me DMing you in Daggerheart, stick it in the comments. I'm going to try creating something on Start Playing and try professional DM. Probably within, so this is the 20th of November, day after my birthday. Oh no, it's not the 20th of November. It's later than 20th of November. My birthday was on Wednesday. This is Saturday, the 22nd of November. I'm going to try, yeah. So probably early December, your time, I will have that set up, and I'm going to try, because we'll have it proper internet. I need to have a fixed internet. At the moment, this is going to be uploaded using a SIM card in Belgium, because it's all we can get at the moment. We need all sorts of ID to be able to prove that we can get internet, so we can't do that. But by the time you're watching this, I'm back in Australia, and probably we have internet by now. And so I will attempt to do pro. But if you fancy that, let me know. But anyway, I digressed. Yes, a big bad. This allows us to have, as a solo player or a DM, a referee, a GM, it allows us to have a villain that we can manipulate and control and test our players with, without needing to go to the ends of the earth doing prep. Because some of it will surprise us as much as them, and also we can get everybody to decide what the big bad is doing based on story, rather than what a lot of games via a certain type of game ends up being basically a competition between the players and the DM as like combative. But I don't think that's very fun as a collaborative narrative storytelling type exercise. There we go, that is all we're going to do for today. We have created our big bad, we've created our setup, we know what we're going to do. We will continue next session with the story of Fern, and maybe Mendex will join Fern, so we'll have 2 characters instead of the 1. Or we'll just keep Fern on their own, and they might come back if Fern keeps getting kicking. Thank you so much for watching. If you are a subscriber, thank you very much for subscribing. Hopefully you're enjoying being a subscriber. If you are not yet a subscriber, do consider subscribing. It really helps the channel, it helps the world know that I exist, it helps the algorithm push this out to other people, more people can watch it, and that will really help me and help the channel. Thank you so much to the Adventurers Guild. The Adventurers Guild are a sound bunch of people. The Adventurers Guild support me financially with their hard-earned cash, and I very much appreciate it. There are 2 tiers of support of the Adventurers Guild, which is the YouTube membership. You should be able to find a way of joining the YouTube membership on the app as well as on the desktop. For a while, you couldn't really see it on the app, only on the desktop. You should be able to see both now. The Early Doors tier, which is the lowest tier, gets access to the podcast, gets access to the members only posts, and gets access to some of the polls. So that's the Superfan, thank you, sorry. The Early Doors members get access to all the videos early, and there are lots of additional videos in the background as well on how I record so The Walking Dead Series 2 is members only. There's some Forbidden Lands episodes that are members only, and there'll be some other series going in which are members only. That's that. You can also support by purchasing the books on Drive Thru RPG, which directly supports me very much indeed, and the Trifolds as well supports. And that is the end of that. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully the echo wasn't too bad and I was able to get it down in edit. I will see you next week, where we will have Fern encounter the machinations of our big bad for the first time, and we'll work out what mission Fern's going to do next. Thank you for watching. Bye.